Welcome to Behind the Curtain, Nashville's movers, shakers,
and tastemakers.
Brought to you by Cord Real Estate, your key to the heart of Nashville. I'm Steve Luther alongside my co-host Van Hohe.
Here we peel back the layers of Nashville's vibrant scene, sitting down with the innovators, creators, and leaders who shape our city. From music to business and everything in between, we dive into the journeys that have brought them to where they are today.
We're here to uncover the stories behind the success, the passion driving their pursuits, and why they've chosen Nashville as their stage. It's about the people who dream big, push boundaries, and make this city truly unique.
So join us as we explore the heart and soul of Nashville through the eyes of those who know it best.
Well, welcome to the show, Connor Pera, the entrepreneurial force behind the Print Authority, where innovative print solutions drive business success. A devoted family man, Connor's journey spans impressive roles from brand management in the pet care industry to empowering businesses in the hospitality sector through strategic print services. As an advisor, mentor, and investor, Connor's diverse experience enriches his leadership, making him a pivotal figure in Nashville's business community. Connor, welcome to the show.
I like all that pivotal entrepreneurial force.
That's a lot of buzzwords there.
Here to
That's
talk
awesome.
about printing, man.
Yeah.
So talk to us about the journey from I guess you were doing some brand management for Mars. What kind of made you want to transition into being your own business?
Yeah. So I came down to Nashville 4 years ago. Took a job with Mars Pet Care.
So we're talking pet care, not like M&Ms.
No, that's the other side of the business.
I was like, ooh, we're gonna talk candy.
But the pet food side of the business.
Okay.
Same company. But yeah, I had gotten my MBA at Northwestern and came down
that's
here
impressive.
for a job
Right there.
Yeah, well, thank you. I was like the last person to get in, I think. So actually, when I showed up for orientation, I remember my newly acquired like student ID, Northwestern student ID, was like not working when they scanned it. Like when I signed in the day of orientation or whatever, it was like the first day on campus. And I was like, this is it. Like, this is where they're going to tell me, like, oh, there's been a mistake. Like, you're not.
I love it.
But anyway, it led me to the opportunity with Mars. And but while I was in business school, I had gotten exposed to the idea of acquisition entrepreneurship and buying small businesses and running them, and sort of the opportunity that was available to aspiring entrepreneurs such as myself. So I kind of had the bug from business school, but then coming down to Nashville, really loved working for Mars, loved what I was doing there, but just sort of the desire to run my own business, be my own boss, although that's a little bit of a loaded term, loaded phrase, but it never really left. And I actually had started a side hustle that I still run, a vending business on the side that had sort of turned me on to entrepreneurship more formally in a very, very small way. And I kind of realized like, whoa, this is really cool. I can just like create a business out of thin air.
Right.
And so that was like a big aha moment for me. And I realized that I really liked it. So I kind of then, was there working at Mars and kind of looking at the path ahead of me over the next 15, 20 years, which was like admittedly an awesome, path to be on. I just kind of felt like it wasn't what I wanted to do.
Sure.
And I knew this path of running my own thing was out there and available, and I didn't have to be a tech entrepreneur that was going to, come up with the next big idea in order to run my own business and be a full-time entrepreneur. So I around that time as well, my wife got pregnant, and so we were super excited about that. But then I'm also like about to become a father, and
it changes things.
And I was like, okay, like I've been wanting to do this thing for a little while, and been thinking about it anyway. Like the clock's ticking.
Right.
Like not really. Of course, I never felt that much pressure to make something happen like now, but I definitely felt like, yeah, it's going to only get more complicated and more challenging to
Absolutely.
make the leap as my daughter gets older. So she's 18 months now. And we're having another one in August, so
Congratulations.
thank you. So it's definitely like full steam ahead on that front, and
Right.
so I'm really glad I made the leap when I did, because it gets, I think the whole proverbial golden handcuffs in corporate America becomes difficult to leave.
Sure.
So I'm
I
glad
know
you're
when we
doing
had our second child, that was when we made the leap, and
I finally
I
convinced him that he needed to
I succumbed to
join the dark side.
the big thinking of Steve Luther. Yeah, that's right.
nice. Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It changes a lot.
Came off the road, the whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Different.
You were in the music business too, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Kind of crazy.
Yeah, yeah. So we talked about this with another guest, but so like for us, Cord was sort of ground up. Like we started this business.
That's right.
You went the route of acquiring an existing business.
Which is
What
very cool.
what was the thinking behind that? Did you have any interest in starting one? Did you know you wanted to buy one that was established? What was your mentality going into that?
yeah, I definitely wanted to buy an existing business for sort of, I guess, like in the acquisition entrepreneurship community, all the reasons we would cite as to why it's
Did you care
better
what kind of
often
business
to
it was
buy
going to
than build.
be?
Not
I mean,
particularly,
you're
but
Mr. MBA.
you
Didn't
skip a
really
lot of
matter.
steps, right? Like, I mean, I'm sure you guys can attest to
Yeah.
the early days of Core, to like just finding product market fit
Right.
is like one of the most fundamental challenges any business faces in any industry. And so by buying something that has an existing customer base, existing employees, and existing
Right.
processes,
Yeah, just creating the name and the brand was a big enough project.
totally.
Yeah.
And brands take, I mean, brands take decades to build.
Right.
So it's not just a logo and then there's
Thankfully,
your brand.
people loved it.
Yeah. So that those are kind of all the reasons traditionally cited as to why it depending on your situation, like it can be more beneficial to buy, because you kind of just skip a lot of steps. And I saw that with the really small business that I was running, in sort of like the timeline to get it to a scale to where,
Talking about the vending business?
yeah,
Okay.
to where it was going to be actually replacing
Right.
my income, or become a viable income stream that I could depend on to support my family. And it was going to be like it was going to be a long time. And so, I think, again, buying an existing business kind of solves the problem of scale to an extent.
So is this a business, the Print Authority, is it a business that you were related to, or that you knew the owner, or did you truly just find a business to buy?
No, yeah, it was, he had gone to a business broker to get the
Okay.
business listed for sale, and I had met him through the broker. So I was
Cool.
networking with brokers and kind of getting on their radar as someone who was
So
interested.
it's not a legacy business for you, and
No.
you weren't in love with the printed word.
No. I mean, I've since, really come to grow
Right.
an affinity for it. But yeah, I was pretty industry agnostic. I was just looking for a good business run by a good person that I felt like I could
Right.
capably lead and hopefully grow.
See, I love things that are printed. I love paper. Steve, I'm out in him. He hates it. Hates it. I like print. I get something new from the printer. I'm like, I gotta smell it.
Yeah.
Love it. It's
like
Mufasa.
I even notice it actually with the people that work at the Print Authority, like how much more they have a tendency to like print something out and hand it to me,
Right.
versus me, I have a tendency to like send email or like do things digitally,
Right.
which I probably shouldn't be openly admitting, but definitely like you know, I think some of it's a generational thing, but I think also some of it is just like there. I definitely know a lot of people have an affinity for print. And
So
yeah,
I
What I
printed
heard from
a
that
receipt
was you're
last
old,
night.
man.
Well, yes, I am old. I'm the oldest person in the building right now, but that's okay. I literally printed a receipt last night on my email because I couldn't remember how to save it to the system for them. So I'm like, oh, okay, I know I can send it, but I don't know how to. I'm just gonna print it, and I can take a picture and I can send it over.
wait, but then you have to
Yeah,
upload it to a digital
exactly.
system.
Yeah,
So
yeah. You
uh,
know, but that's
yeah,
This is what I'm dealing
that's what it is.
yeah.
So
So,
rude.
so did you have any parameters? Like you said, this is kind of what I'm looking for. Did you look at like franchises or things like that, or was it just like I'm open to whatever?
Yeah, I mean, my biggest parameter was Middle Tennessee, located in Middle Tennessee, and so that kind of naturally constrained my um, of universe of
Sure.
available businesses. But other than that, I really leaned into my relationship with the seller. And you kind of hear this in like the private equity world, and you certainly hear it in the search funder world of like relationship with seller integrity, like those things are paramount. But it's almost treated as like a throwaway, like a oh yeah, the seller has to be a good person type of thing.
Mm,
But then when it comes to like actually valuing the business, like that isn't a factor that anyone looks at. And I actually kind of approached the whole process with like coming from a marketing background and not a finance or deal making background. I kind of knew that my advantage in this area was not going to be like my ability to build a better financial model than the next guy. It was going to be in my ability to like sell myself and my story, and also like be able to connect with and read people and understand people and hopefully motivate people as I lead the business. So I placed a huge emphasis on that. I talk to people who are looking to buy a small business all the time, and um, I always tell them like that wasn't just like a line to me. Like that was something I actually believe enhanced the value of an asset. And so I really leaned into that. Like I trusted the seller. I could tell he was a person of high integrity,
Mhm.
just based on the fact that he wasn't really holding back any of the sort of negatives, if you want to call it that, about the
sure.
business or like challenges about running a printing business. I just got a really good impression that like he was forthcoming and that like there was no there was nothing he was trying to hide from me. And so I felt really good about that. And I was like, this is a really good person, and this is a really good business that has survived multiple recessions, COVID, um, and in an industry that has been like completely disrupted.
Right.
And a lot of businesses have been wiped out due to all the digital change that's taken place. So those things I would say fundamentally were the biggest reasons I was attracted to the business. And then beyond that, we had a lot of long term. This was another thing that I think sort of pointed me back to the relationship with the seller. But we have a lot of long term customers, which I really liked, but also a lot of employees who have been with the business for, in some cases, decades.
Wow.
There's one person in particular who has worked at the Print Authority longer than I've been alive.
Wow.
So that's like to me, I thought like as a new business owner, new to the industry, new to the company, if I can keep those people around, like that will be hugely beneficial for my knowledge and ability to get up to speed. But then also, um, it says a lot about the culture that
That's right.
people decided to spend their entire career at this business.
It's incredible.
So I felt really good about those things. And then, there's also a lot of other like specifics about the business, the strategy, the nuances of like what we do within the industry that we can get into if you want. But fundamentally, like I felt like this is a good business run by a good person that I can add value to.
So you can advise them and they can advise you.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah.
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 Yeah, I was going to say it's probably harder and harder to find businesses that have employees that have been there for that amount of time. It seems like people transition so much now. It's much more of a gig economy. But probably smaller businesses like that is where you're going to find them.
Yeah. No,
Sounds
I
like the basis of a movie to me.
I found that to be the case. Like, and obviously now I know a lot more small business owners, and yeah, I think in general, like small businesses. I mean, you guys were just kind of talking about it about core real estate here. Like, I think when it's a smaller organization, like for better and for worse, like you really get to know people like family.
Yeah.
And so
Oh boy, do ya?
there's
Oh boy, do ya? Yeah.
there's more of that almost like familial
That's
type
right.
relationship than working for a big company where you're one of thousands, and
Sure.
it becomes a lot easier to jump to the next opportunity that's a 20% pay raise or something like that. So yeah, so I think I have definitely found that more in the small business world. There's just more long tenured people, but certainly it's something that I'm highly conscious of, as well as the owner. Still relatively new. I've been running the business for about a year now, but still very conscious of the fact that I want to keep good people around the business.
Right.
So making sure.
What's your favorite part about owning the Print Authority?
That's a great question. I would say probably the fact that it feels like it's an opportunity for me to make a distinct impact on the community and the world, like in the way that I want to do it, because it's at the end of the day an asset that I own and control. I kind of
help me understand what you're saying.
Yeah, so I guess autonomy, like the autonomy I feel like I have to drive the direction of the business, and therefore like the kind of impact that
there's a lot of impact
that I want to make on the world.
Yeah.
And the bigger I grow and scale the business, obviously there's the economic incentive that's beneficial to me and my family, but also there's this sort of like intangible like impact incentive that I really want to
not just for your family, but for the employees that are long term.
Yeah. So and we've been going through a lot of like sort of strategic thinking and mission and vision exercises.
Right.
So our mission is to provide print solutions that help people and businesses succeed. And I really relate to that mission and feel very passionate about it. Not just because like I want to provide business cards that like look really cool when somebody presents in front of a client. Like, though I do think there's something cool about having that like minor but tangible impact on the way somebody shows up.
Maybe he can be my solution to my business card situation.
There you go. Yeah.
I got a business card situation. I'll tell you about off.
Okay. But then also like the whole part about like helping people and businesses succeed. I kind of also view that as like, okay, so what's the impact that I'm making on the customer ecosystem, the vendor ecosystem, the employee ecosystem? Like, because of this business that I own and operate, like it puts me in situations where I have the capacity to impact people in a pretty like broad sort of range of people, and it puts me in these situations that I wouldn't otherwise be in, or rooms that I wouldn't otherwise be in, and gets me into conversations that I might not otherwise be a part of. And so
like with this,
it's sort of the vehicle. Yeah, exactly. Right. It's sort of like the vehicle through which I can make an impact on the world, and hopefully that's a positive impact on people. So hopefully I make people's lives better.
We haven't heard from you, Steve, in a while here. We've been over here just chatting away.
Well, yeah, I'm just letting it go.
We haven't let you get a
Letting
word
it
in
roll.
edgewise yet,
Letting
have we?
it roll. Talk to us a little bit about your personal stories. You brought this up off camera. I wouldn't go there otherwise, but
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, so a big part of what's motivating me and what's sort of like driving the impact here too is, or the desire for impact too, is during college, after college, early 20s, early mid 20s, really. I struggled with alcohol and substance abuse and mental health issues, and have been in recovery for over 7 years now. And that's just been, I would say, like the single biggest catalyst for the person in front of you today that you're like even interested in talking to
Right.
on this podcast, right? Like I was totally like unfocused, totally like uninterested in really like all the important stuff that I've come to realize is meaningful and impactful about my life. Like those things were not important to me in my early 20s, even like I said,
Sure.
even into my mid 20s. And I was just focused on all the wrong things and searching for happiness and meaning in all the wrong places. And so I caused a lot of damage in my life that sort of made me have to reconcile with, like, all right, sort of that like fork in the road moment of like, I'm not becoming the person that, like, this is not going according to plan. Like I'm not becoming the person that I know I have the potential to be.
was
And
there a catalyst that
there was a
that shift?
handful of things, but I would say more than anything, I just like had this nagging. So after college, I was actually had some success in my early career working in financial services, mainly in operations roles, for a financial services company outside of Philadelphia. And I was actually promoted to managing a team at I think I was 23, 24, like a couple of years into my career. And so I had like a decent amount of responsibility at work and kind of was seen as a leader. And but there was this whole other side of me that like nobody really knew about at work. And so this like is almost like a double life kind of dynamic, and that sort of like tension really like gnawed at me about like this, just like created a deep sense of unhappiness and lack of purpose and meaning. I just had no alignment between like the person the world saw and the person who like I felt like I was. And transparently, like the person I was outside of like work and professional and like familial activities, where I kind of had to put on this mask of like what I wanted you to think of me as opposed to how I really felt and how I was really behaving. So I really struggled with that. But there was just a variety of pieces of evidence that I could point to that were just like, it's just like not how I was raised. It was like not again, like I said, I can't really point to any one specific sort of fork in the road moment other than the day after I had my last drink. I was driving back from Ohio to Pennsylvania to the Philly area where I was living, and just had this like really long 7-hour car ride to sit there and kind of like, it was a particularly rough weekend. And I just like kind of had this like this sense that like I'm out of options. Like I've got no more, good ideas left in the tank. Like
How old were you?
it's over. 25.
Man, to
Yeah.
have that moment at 25, that's
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah, well, I accelerated it through a lot of very risky behavior, but yeah, I'm extremely grateful for it today.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
Having that moment of clarity.
yeah, exactly. And it just kind of so I came home that day and told my mom like I need to make a change, like I need help.
Wow.
And so then I started this whole process of recovery. And
I was expected to hear some horrible accident or something terrible?
No, I mean, I had
he
like
was
some
in
of those.
jail or something.
I had some of those experiences like
you know,
sprinkled in there, right? Where it was like, but definitely dodged a few bullets too,
Yeah.
like
Thank
and
God.
and so yeah, but more than anything, it was just this a deep sense of unhappiness, and I just like it's hard to boil it down to anything other than like I was not happy and fulfilled and living a life that I wanted.
Sure.
And so for me, it you know, I very quickly, like after I got sober and started doing the work of recovery, like my life got a million times better, like right away. Like I started doing a lot better at work, like started rediscovering like all these things that I was interested in that I had lost interest in, hobbies, activities, had so much more like time back. Um, and so I just started like doing more stuff and getting more plugged in and involved in a lot of different areas. And one of those was sort of just like discovering what I wanted to do professionally and kind of like how I wanted the rest of my career to sort of unfold.
Love it.
And so I was like, you know, I think I'm gonna study for the GMAT and go to business school. And like, you know, when I was drinking, like that was the kind of thing I would probably like talk about all the time, but then like check in 6 months later and I've made like no progress. But I think like the biggest difference that of like me in recovery versus me pre-recovery is like I actually like go do those things. Like I go try them. And like, yeah. And so I like have been pretty consistently able to blow myself away with the results. And so yeah, so that sort of led me down this whole path of like I said, going to business school and then kind of like to all this professional transformation. And then now as I think about, you know, what do I want what do I want my impact to be in the world through my business? Like I said, I kind of this business affords me the opportunity to get in front of a lot of different people and to sort of my vehicle for impact in the world. And
do you have plans to buy other businesses or
yeah, I mean,
teach people to do so?
Opportunistically, like opportunistically open to acquisitions, like specifically in the printing industry for now. But not like actively looking to buy more businesses right now. Definitely focused on trying to run this one. But yeah, as I think about like, you know, what I want my impact to be, it's of course like there's this, you know, financial motivation for me and my family. But beyond that, like one of the things I've also learned is that like whether it's like money, fame, success, you know, in my case, drugs and alcohol, like those things like don't work. Like even though like we think they're going to work, they don't work. And so I kind of like have to, as much as I sometimes find myself like in these rabbit holes of, you know, pursuing success and financial success and business growth, and those things are all super important. But at the same time, I have to like constantly redirect myself to like, okay, but beyond that, like assume that's taken care of. Then what do I have left, and like what do I actually want to accomplish here? And so for me, you know, I'm still kind of like figuring out what specifically that is, but I definitely like.
That's why devoted family man's in your bio.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's a big. So actually, someone that I'm in a peer group with, introduced himself as a father and a husband, and that he, to support his family, this is what he does professionally. And I thought that was like the coolest thing ever.
I definitely relate to that.
And I was like, I'm going to start doing that. I actually told him, I was like, I'm going to steal that. That's good. So that's, you know, and so I kind of try to constantly like reframe my life in that manner. Like I'm a father and a husband, and to support my family, I run a great business.
Do you get involved in other things that are helping people who are coming out of addiction and that sort of thing?
Yeah, so I'm pretty involved in 12-step. In the
like with Cord, we have a different community outreach element to what we do, and and that we don't necessarily publicize, but that were very active in the community.
Yeah. And
behind
that's
the
definitely
scenes.
like a way that I want to make an impact as well. And anytime somebody like opens up to me, or if I feel like
Right.
there's an opening to
Sure.
like talk about it,
You're
like,
open to going there.
I'm like
Yeah.
right there.
Is there a faith element to this, or is
There
it,
is
is it more?
for me personally, there is definitely like my faith journey's been like a sort of long and windy road from that really has gone from growing up in the Catholic Church to now like fully back to being a practicing Catholic in the Catholic
Oh,
Church.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I've
yeah,
taken
yeah.
a
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
taken
yeah,
a
yeah.
windy road to get back to where I
Right,
started.
right.
But yeah, so for me that's a big part of my
Mm.
journey as well. But yeah, so anyway, I don't even know where I was going with that, but
We're on that windy road.
yeah.
Look out. You
But
never
that's,
know.
you know, in some ways I think yeah, like I was saying, I think like the whole idea of using the business as a way to reach more people and to be able to make an impact beyond you know, the economic impact, which I think is also important, and
Yeah.
definitely
Good.
would be lying if I did said that wasn't a huge motivator too.
Sure, sure. We often talk about that very thing. Like, you know, my joy comes from seeing uh, an impact that I've had on someone, and you know, being in this position, it's not just our clients that we can impact. It's you know, our staff, it's the vendors we work with. You know, it's everybody and the community, you know, as a whole. You know, it's a big part of what drew me to be a business owner,
Right.
and I think that's probably
Because you
a
came out of big
consistent.
corporate America.
Yeah, I came out of corporate America as well. Yeah, I was an IT guy for like 10
Oh,
years.
okay, nice. Yeah,
But yeah, I just felt like with what I was doing, it was like it just seems so superficial. It's like I don't really feel like I'm making an impact on anyone, and I just needed to
I
figure
like to
out a way
think
of
I
doing
can be
that.
superficial and make an impact. I mean, let's just be honest, you know?
yeah.
But I feel
Same.
like that's probably a consistent feeling for a lot of business owners is kind of what draws them into it. And you mentor and talk to other business owners. Do you find that to be the case? Or?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I would say like one of the things that like fires me up more than anything on a day to day basis
Tell us.
is in terms of also like thinking about growing and scaling the business is like the impact that it can have on the team that works there, and like not just like financially, but also like that sort of, there's nothing cooler than when you see like the lights come on in someone else, and like whether that's like them realizing that they're capable of more than they thought in a professional capacity, and you were like kind of like the passenger seat on that journey,
Right.
or you helped, you did something that helped in some small way enable that.
You put the gas in the tank.
Yeah. Or like, you know, and again, like a big part of for me, like my involvement in recovery is like you get to see that like all the time, and it's the coolest thing in the world, like by far. Like it's you just get to see miracles like all the time, and it's amazing. Like you like seeing the light come on, like seeing somebody else like get, like they get it, is like the coolest experience in the world. And so I, you know, hopefully, and I've been talking to the team about this too, like I'm hopeful that like we have really lofty ambitions, and I'm definitely like encouraging people to stretch their imagination when it comes to what we can achieve as a business. And I am hopeful that like if we can start to make progress toward those goals, like I'll get the team to believe in kind of what I'm, you know, I guess like what I'm putting out there, you know, like I talk about like this being a 9-figure caliber, like quality business. And I think like if I can get this business to an 8-figure business, I think some of the team is going to start to believe that that we're a 9-figure business.
That's
so
good.
I already believe it. I just got to get the financial performance to match like what's in my
Right.
head.
He's visualizing.
But that's
What's that? The miracle morning, right?
there's gonna be a lot of pain and suffering along the way, I'm sure.
Wow.
But I'm ready for it. So
There's definitely some pain and suffering as a business owner for sure. And I mean, there's a lot of pressure there too when you realize, like, there's a lot of people depending on you.
yeah.
Beyond your family.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other families depending on you too.
Yeah. No, that's a big thing. And like, I think it's interesting, like the whole acquisition entrepreneurship model, like part of it involves like taking on personally guaranteed debt to buy the business. Right.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I talk to a lot of people all the time where like, how do you think about the personal guarantee? Like, how'd you get over that hurdle? Or, and I kind of think about it, of course I'm on the other side, so it's easy for me to say now. But I kind of think about it weirdly in the sense of, if you're willing to like sign up for the responsibility of being like being responsible for making payroll on a regular basis, and owning and controlling something that is people depend on for their livelihood, like I kind of feel like you should be willing to put a little bit of your own personal skin in the game.
Right.
Like, again, this is just me, like a risk tolerant entrepreneur's mindset, but yeah. So again, I'm on the other side of it, and knock on wood, hopefully, I don't have to explore the downside of that one. But I'm on the other side of at least taking on the personal guarantee. TBD on if the bank comes calling. But that I definitely like I almost noticed this disconnect in people that I talk to, are like, I don't know if I want to take on a personal guarantee. And it's like, but you're prepared to like sign up for be the one like to make payroll for 20
Right.
plus other families. Like that doesn't seem very fair, does it?
Right.
I don't know. Maybe I'm insensitive about it.
That's
I don't
good.
know.
So talk to me about the print business, because coming from the IT world prior to real estate, like I was always trying to figure out how to have less paper. And
More paper.
I'm very much about, my phone is my office, and, trying to be as paperless as possible. But there's still a lot of stuff that gets printed. Talk to us about where the print industry is today.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with I think it's technically a mathematical principle, but it's this concept called the Lindy effect. If you've ever read Nassim Taleb, who wrote The Black Swan and a bunch of other like books that have a lot of really complex topics, they're like heavy reads,
Deep thinking,
difficult to difficult to get through. I audible them, but he talks a lot in his books about the Lindy effect, which is the idea that for a piece of technology, the longer it's been around, the longer its useful life is. So like life expectancy actually goes up the longer it stays in use. So printing, I kind of think is like a great example of that. So this is a 400-year-old industry. And so, yeah, so it may not be, may not have the growth trajectory of like a software enabled services business, but I think in order for there to be no printing that takes place, like I think we're a really, really long way from that reality if ever taking place. Like I would bet on this industry, at least from purely like a longevity standpoint, over a lot of other like even tech-based businesses. So, but that said, I mean, I definitely think that obviously things have continued to digitize. One of the things I really like about what we do specifically, and what I'm a huge believer in, is we do a lot of what's called web to print, or outsourced print and on-demand printing and fulfillment services. So we set up businesses with an online store that people can just go in and log in and order all their print material. So it's like we load the artwork, all the products, files. It's like shopping for anything else online. And we do that for a lot of multi-location businesses, small to medium-sized franchise concepts. And we are
potentially core real estate soon.
Yeah,
that's
hopefully.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm getting excited over here.
We do there, and we do a lot of shipping too. So we do we're their like recommended print provider. So
Right.
in the franchise world, like our relationship is with corporate, and but our end customers are the franchisees. So it's a longer sales cycle. It's much more relationship driven. It takes time, but once you get hooked into like a system, the switching costs become high, and the revenue is much more reoccurring in nature. And we do a lot of stuff that's just like blocking and tackling like print needs, like business cards, marketing materials, books, brochures, booklets. But we also do promo and apparel, and gotten into like wide format and signage and a lot of that kind of stuff as well over the years. But yeah, I mean, I think that there's always going to be a need for, at least on some level, like a regular amount of print for like any, call it like a retail store outlet. And the great thing about like being the print vendor for a multi-location system is that these are like relatively small orders on a one-off basis, like $30 here, $50 there, like a couple $100 here. But when you compound that out over like 100 plus stores, you're all of a sudden talking about like a meaningful amount of revenue.
Right.
And as those franchise systems grow and scale themselves, we essentially benefit from effort-free growth. So
That's
it's a
good.
super scalable, I think, model. And the only downside is it's just takes longer to kind of, get in the door. And, those relationships, as much as it's beneficial to be the person who's the provider, like it's that much more difficult to, become the provider, if that makes sense.
Right.
So,
percentage wise, like how much of your business is like promotional type items versus like advertising materials versus like document creation?
yeah, so we do, in terms of like pure promo, like jobs that we outsource. So that's anything that's like typically like large format banners and signage. We outsource those jobs, as well as promo and apparel. I mean, like everyone outsources promo, but that's about 30% of our business, and about 70% of it is traditional print, ink on paper. We do a lot of digital printing. So essentially a lot of the work goes through our digital devices, which are essentially just really large versions of the technology that you have on your printer at home. But we can run all different types of paper and
are you competitive in your pricing?
We're competitive, but I don't have an interest in being in competing in the marketplace on price, because it's a race to the bottom. And if people are always going to be able to find a better price. But yes, I mean, it's interesting too, like it being someone who's like, got like debt to pay down on this business, and like a need for revenue and to bring business in the door. It's tough because like, you can sometimes like you can bid down a job and, eat into your margin a bit, but it's like, then, you're kind of playing this like race to the bottom game. So, I mean, I'm sure you guys like run into that in your business too, right? Yeah. Like super competitive, it's you always want to differentiate yourself on something other than price, because if people are just going to you for your price, then like there's always going to be somebody who can come beat you,
always.
Unless you're Walmart. So, but then it's Costco, right? Like
exactly.
So yeah.
So you said your long-term goals, take this to a 9-figure business. What's your strategic plan to get there? Like, where do you think the print industry is going? Where are you focused?
Yeah, I mean, I think I think web to print is a big enabler of that. We haven't even like started to scratch the surface on some of the opportunity that's out there for that. So I think that's a big enabler. That sort of like, to me, leverages what we're currently doing.
What is web to print?
That's like the outsourced print services, like B2B portals.
Gotcha.
That
like
is much more of a
agents,
more of a national play too. But yeah, I mean,
for our agents, they'd go to a portal and they'd order business cards and
which is what we've been trying to do with
Yeah.
another
Yeah.
company
Okay.
unsuccessfully.
Okay. Yeah.
I won't say who it is.
That's also a really competitive space too. So like I don't want to pretend like, oh, we're the only ones. So, like there's tons of providers doing that and tons of different ways to go about it. But I do think the runway, like I think that the play there is like there's always going to be a need for print in some form or fashion. So it's like how do you penetrate more more industries, more locations, more systems with that service offering. And so I think that's like organic, like long term. That's where I see the future of our company going. But I also see like sort of these like adjacent pivots as a viable path as well. So we outsource all our label work, so like stickers or like labeling stuff. And I think that is definitely a part of the industry that is growing and really sort of always going to be there, right? Like packaging and labeling is, I don't see a way around that in any sort of near term or even like long term future
until we're plugged into the matrix.
Yeah, exactly.
We're gonna need
until we can like eat digital
Yeah.
food. Like
Right,
I think
right.
we're gonna have like packaging and
Exactly.
labeling.
Well,
for
water
a
tastes
while.
better when your logo's on it.
Exactly.
Oh, that's right. And coffee too.
Yeah. So I think organically, I think that, and then there's like kind of, so there's like more like growth, I would say like evergreen, if you will, like areas of printing that would be more natural pivots for someone like us versus somebody in a totally different industry, though labels is a little bit different than kind of what we do. Different technology, different equipment and stuff. But so there's that. I also think there's a huge opportunity for us to just leverage our brand and like network and ability to generate business locally. Historically, that's not something that we've gone after a ton. I mean, I think so the 08-09 recession was what prompted the previous owner of the business to pivot to the web to print model and really focus on like the internet, because a lot of the print work in a lot of markets and a lot of B2B print work had just sort of dried up. And it's like, okay, we got to look like outside of just our immediate neighborhood. At that time, it was very much like a local business doing local work for local businesses. And we still do a lot of that. I would say that's still like half of our business today. But I think that once the business really pivoted to web to print, that became the focus. And I think there's an opportunity, again, particularly in the immediate and near term, to redouble our efforts there and really focus there. So I've hired a new sales rep. I mean, I've taken on a lot of business development stuff, but also have hired a sales rep who's up and running now and kind of, just doing old school, like outbound local B2B sales, right? So I think there's tons of opportunity for us to do that. And then the third avenue that I see is M&A. And I think like that's where, my background and my network and like me as a business owner can hopefully bring sort of like gas on the fire. And
M&A.
Mergers
and acquisitions. So
okay, well, I just had to ask, for those of us who don't know all the letters.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, if I'm using any jargony terms,
that's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
Playing in the shallow end of the pool.
Oh yeah. So yeah. So that's another avenue that I see. I mean, but at the end of the day, I mean, I kind of see it like so many other sort of like old school industries. Do I think it's going to be like a double digit growth industry for the next several decades? Like, no, definitely not. But I think it's going to be around. And I think the other thing about being a relatively small business is that the game that I'm playing is much more micro than it is captive to sort of like the macro trends in the print industry, right? Like I'm small enough that I have runway to like at least like 10x, maybe not 10x, but at least like 10x the business before I'm running into the question of like, there's not enough industry tailwinds here. So I kind of like feel like I can table that for now. Because I feel like I have so much runway before I have to like address that problem. And I don't know, but
so someone that thinks they might want to jump into something like this, buy a business, be a business owner, what's the the number one advice you would give for them?
Ooh.
Well, certainly the number one advice that I give people who are looking to buy small businesses is to think less and do more. Tell
us more about that.
I'm somebody who suffers from this too, but I think a lot of times, a lot of the people I talk to are looking at acquiring a small business or coming out of business school or like in business school or kind of in those circles, if you will. So
Right.
let's say under the bucket of very smart and ambitious people who are oftentimes their own worst enemy because they suffer from analysis paralysis and they have a need to be certain before they go do something. And as you guys
Right.
know, like when you are running your own business, like nothing is ever certain. Like you guys,
Yep.
I'm sure you guys have your strategy for
yeah.
Cord Real Estate, and
Oh yeah.
you know you've done your research and you've done your homework and you're going after your strategy. But like, are you 100% convinced that it's right? No. I mean,
Right.
I would be amazed if you are. But like anything else, like I talk to people who are looking at buying small businesses too. Like I don't know anyone who's gone to the closing table 100% certain that this was going to be like a financial success, right? Like you just have to get comfortable with the fact that you're not going to know for sure.
Right.
Like there's no such thing as a sure thing.
That's part of owning a business.
Yeah. So I think for a lot of people, like that's sort of a mental block that they really struggle with. And one of the things I learned through the vending side hustle and just through like other things I've been involved with and that my recovery has taught me like so much is like one of the lines that I feel like I'm always telling people, but it applies to recovery. It applies to like almost every area of my life, which is that you get sober with your feet, not your head. And it's like, just go do. Like,
Yep.
stop overthinking. Like, stop getting in your own way. Like, just get off your butt and go make it happen. And so
there's your quote for the day.
Yeah.
Well, failure's not the end. You know, worst case, if there's a failure, it's a stepping stone.
Right.
To the next thing, you know?
Yeah. And I think you kind of just have to have that mindset about failure that like, okay, if it doesn't work out, like I'll at least have learned a ton from that experience. Like that's kind of how you have to go
shame
do
in
it.
it.
Yeah. I mean, you know, we're only here for a short amount of time, right?
That's true.
That's
true.
Well, if someone wants to get a hold of Print Authority or you, what's the best way?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at Connor Pera or X. So you can reach me that way or go follow me there. I talk a lot about small business acquisition, recovery, trying to figure out like how to be a better dad and better parent and better husband. So
and if they need business cards,
come on that journey with me. And then, yeah, you can go to our website, theprinauthority.com, or email me, Connor, CONNOR, at theprinauthority.com.
Very cool. Good.
So, well, Connor, it's been I'm combining words here. Wow. It's been a pleasure and a privilege to have you on the show, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Well, that's a wrap on today's episode of Behind the Curtain, Nashville's Movers, Shakers,
and Tastemakers.
We hope you've been inspired by the stories of passion, perseverance, and innovation right here in Nashville.
A big thank you to our guests for sharing their journeys and to you, our listeners, for joining us. And of course, our gratitude to Cord Real Estate for making this conversation possible.
Don't forget to follow or subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform.
Thank us.
Yes, you did.
Oh, I guess I did. Well, thank us. Okay.
Like I was saying.
Oh, yeah.
Don't forget to follow or subscribe on your favorite platform to catch every episode and hit that notification bell. We've got plenty more fascinating guests lined up, ready to share their insights and inspirations.
And we love hearing from you. So reach out to us with your thoughts, questions, or suggestions for who you'd like to hear from next.
Until next time, keep chasing your dreams and making your mark in Nashville.
Oh, my goodness.
Remember,
am I talking to Casey
it's
Kasem?
the people behind the scenes that make the city shine.
I love it. Take care. See you behind the curtain.